Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Tesla stock at the time of recording this video is down about 2%. But when we started the trading day, Tesla stock was up almost 2% at one point because we did get big news overnight. And we'll talk about that here in this video. And again, this fall today for Tesla doesn't have anything to do with Tesla, and that's important to remember. We'll get into what's happening in the broader markets today, why stocks are coming under some pressure, but I do think the news today for Tesla is going to positively impact Tesla stock. At one point it was. Tesla stock broke above $340 per share today. Again, was doing very well. And then it all kind of flipped. So ladies and gentlemen, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Check out that link down below in the description of this video for the trading community if you would like to come join that as well. But more on that in just a few moments. As always, let's get started with your Tesla stock news. But I do think you guys want to really watch this one through its entirety, because when you hear the news today, you're going to say, oh my gosh, why is Tesla not up 5 or 10%? And that's where we need to talk about what's happening in the broader markets as well. So Tesla officially unveiled the Model Y/L in China last night with a starting price of about 47,000 US dollars, a range of about 327 miles. That's an estimate. 0 to 62 miles per hour in 4.5 seconds, 89.6 cubic feet of storage, and deliveries that start September 2025 in China. The Model Y, already the best-selling vehicle in the world, globally, it's going to be a hit in China. There is specific things that are different about this vehicle, okay? Like the power armrest. Kind of cool, little bit different, but there is differences just beyond the third row seating and obviously the cabin size being quite a bit larger. Tesla says the second row seats in the new Model Y/L are ventilated and heated and can be electronically folded. The third row seats are also heated, which is quite unusual even in more premium vehicles to have all of the seats being heated. That's a pretty cool feature. Tesla on the new Model Y/L says, quote, the carefully tuned chassis equipped with a continuous variable damping damper that adapts to road conditions can effectively filter vibration, improve grip and stability, and allow you to get more precise control. The new Model Y/L also has 18 speakers and 1 subwoofer. The new Model Y/L has a 16-inch center screen versus a 15.4-inch on the current shorter version of the Model Y, so slightly bigger screen. Now, this vehicle is only 8% more expensive than the current shorter Model Y, and hopefully the cost on this Model Y is roughly the same as the old Model Y. That's kind of how Tesla likes to do things. They don't tend to raise the manufacturing cost of their mass market vehicles. That's just not what Tesla does. So if it's 8% more expensive with a similar manufacturing cost of the previous Model Y, that should help boost margins. The second row and third row seats fold completely flat, so you can get a lot of, crap in the back of the car if you needed to, if you didn't need that second, third row seating. The suspension is second generation suspension system equipped with continuous variable damping, again unique to the Model Y/L, with 8 cameras including a front bumper camera with a washer and RGB ambient lights. Okay, silver plated glass roof, acoustic glass, HEPA air filtration system, same as on the shorter Model Y. Now, also in a first for Tesla, the new Model Y/L has air-cooled wireless phone chargers. The charging base has small slit air vents in the center that blows cool air onto your phone to prevent overheating. Tesla has also introduced a turn signal stock retrofit for the Model 3 in China for $350 US dollars. Tesla has also updated its referral program in the US. When someone uses your referral code and buys a Model S or a Model X, they will now receive $250 discounted towards their car purchase. Buyers of Model 3 and Y and Cybertruck still get 3 months of FSD supervised. The new Tesla Model Y also has an additional rear brake light under the spoiler, so it's going to be pretty easy to spot from a distance the Model Y L versus other models. Waymo's new Robotaxi with their 6th generation hardware spotted testing in Philadelphia. 13 cameras, 6 radars, 4 lidars, heaters, wipers, and sprayers for sensors to keep them clean. XAI says it's investing upwards of $40 billion at its Colossus site to train Grok. They are using 208 Tesla Megapacks worth about $190 million to help power its Colossus 1 supercomputer, with even more planned for Colossus 2. They're building a 500-acre solar farm near the site with construction that begins in September. Tesla has changed its Model Y APR financing promotion in the US to 3.99% from 3.49%. William Blair analyst Jed Dorheimer, on riding in the Tesla Robotaxi service in Austin last week, said, quote, "We experienced a glimpse of the future, and it is exciting. The comparisons are immediate and stark. When we drove past Waymo and Zoox vehicles outfitted with their complex sensor suite, they stuck out like a sore thumb. In contrast, the Robotaxis blended in with other Teslas on the road. We felt inconspicuous, flowing with the traffic, confirming our thesis. Robotaxi was half the price of Uber, showing its ability to win market share by weaponizing price. In Austin, we took multiple Robotaxi and Waymo rides. The contrast was clear. Aside from the visual difference between each pulling up to the curb, the Robotaxi was comfortable and familiar, and it felt as though a friendly ghost chauffeur was driving our personal car. Driving was smooth and human-like, recognizing and patiently waiting for pedestrians, switching into less crowded lanes, patiently waiting to execute a safe, unprotected turn, and yet disconcerting and confident enough to drive through a light that just turned yellow, so as not to slam on the brakes. Waymo also provided a top-notch service, and we did not encounter any safety concerns. But if we were to be overly critical, it felt more ... robotic. In the cabin, you have to listen to an airline-esque preamble on Waymo and safety protocols, and during the ride, you can hear all the various spinning LiDAR sensors spooling up and down with electronic whizzing sounds. In short, Robotaxi felt like a more luxurious service for half the cost, and the driving felt more quote-unquote human-like. Also big news today, Tesla has reportedly been testing FSD supervised on public roads in Japan, with plans to release the software to the public pending regulatory approval. Now, Waymo is actively looking to launch in Tokyo, so this could be another market for the Robotaxi service, but first, presumably, you got to get FSD into the country. Now, you can also see that Tesla added a new speaker below the screen in the second row in the Model Y L, as well as in the ceiling just behind the second row cabin chairs. The second row seat cup holders are below the 8-inch screen. Additionally, the third row seats have 2 USB-C charging outlets. And every new Model 3 in China now comes with a turn signal stalk. Now, Arish on X says, I took a Robotaxi the other day and noticed the super cool feature, Find My Vehicle feature. Also, super cool that I can use my phone to unlock the car, open the trunk, flash the beams, and honk the horn. Super easy to find the car anywhere. So, I mean, pretty straightforward. You find your car, it literally points an arrow towards it, tells you how many feet it is away, and starts honking, and lights start flashing. Now, that is all fine, dandy, and great. All of that news is fantastic. But we're going to get into, in just a moment here, what's happening to the broader markets today. Because if the markets were behaving, if we can use that word, you would see Tesla's stock not down 1.5%, probably up 3 to 5% today, if not maybe more. So what's going on? First, before we get into that and take a look at the option activity and what the short sellers are doing in Tesla stock, check out that link down below in the description of this video for the trading community if you have not done so already and you are actively trying to make a lot of money, okay? That is not a service for individuals that are okay with 7 to 10% annualized returns. That's fine and dandy, and you'll ultimately reach whatever goal you set with that path. It's going to take a lot longer. Now, I'm not going to give you a guarantee. You could lose money. You could lose all of your money. You need to verify all due diligence for yourselves, and you need to understand the companies that you invest in. Not because my due diligence is wrong. It's not. It's facts. It's public information. But if you don't understand the companies you are investing in, the first bad day, you're going to sell out. And then what, a year later, the stock's up 10x, and you're going to kick yourself, and that's ultimately going to be regretful. Okay. Or you're going to, again, say these stocks suck, and then the next day they go up 20, 30%, something like that, right? Whereas when you understand a company, you can be stoic to what happens on any given day because you know the company. Wall Street, they don't know the company like you. Okay. But we are going out finding opportunities in small cap AI stocks. AI is the theme for the next decade, whether you like it or not. Get rich with it or don't. That's essentially your choice right now. And I think most of the opportunity is in these stocks that people don't know about already. If everyone already knows about these AI stocks, the opportunity is probably gone, okay, to a certain extent. One reason why I like Tesla specifically, because nobody looks at Tesla from a Wall Street perspective and gives Tesla a lot of credit for what they're doing in AI. If that were the case, Tesla would be like a $900 stock right now because we all know what the future is going to look like for Tesla. It's bright. Okay. One reason why I like Tesla, just to point that out. But again, the opportunity right now is in the stocks that you've probably never heard of. And those are the names that we are investing in. We also have some biopharmas in there as well, some catalyst specific names. Come check it out if you have not done so already. Link down below in the description of this video. And before we go ahead and get into what's happening in broader markets today, give you all of the headline news. Option activity in Tesla stock today from hedge funds and institutions, slightly on the bullish side. It's more positive than negative, so that's good to see, but it's nothing to really write home about, at least at the time of recording this video. You have 69 different trades totaling $25 million with a positive order value of 57%. So slightly positive, but not anything, too crazy. Short sellers today are covering on short positions, covering about 1.38 million shares. So we've seen over the past 2 days, short sellers have been shorting shares, and now they're starting to cover again. You also have 2.67% short interest of free float, down about 5% in the last month. $24.24 billion sold short in Tesla, down about 12% in the last month. And 72.32 million shares sold short, down about 8% in the last month. And 17.51 million shares out on loan, down about 6.5% in the last month. Okay, so short sellers, they're not even taking out shares to short at this point, because before you short a stock, you take the stock out on loan, right? There's only 17.5 million shares out on loan, and there's 3.3 billion shares outstanding. So there's not a lot of dry powder on the sidelines, if you will, or appetite to even short Tesla at this point. Despite that, you can see markets have an input to what happens to Tesla's stock on any given day. On the day today, the Dow is actually green, up 0.02%, barely. It's like a break-even day. S&P is down 0.5%. NASDAQ down 1.27%. And the Russell 2000 is down 0.78%. The VIX is up 3.34% today. There's not really any one piece of news that looks to be causing this. Okay. I'll get into what I think is causing this in just a moment. But the long story short version is we have the FOMC minutes tomorrow. We have Walmart earnings Thursday morning. And we have Jerome Powell at Jackson Hole on Friday. Stocks are up a lot from the lows in April. A lot of funds may be trying to hedge portfolios. When there's a lot of events, there's a lot of what's called event risk. And although I'm expecting things to go well, if you're a hedge fund or institution, you don't have that luxury of most of the time just saying, hey, I think things are going to be fine, I'm not going to hedge. A lot of hedging is done by algorithms, right? A lot of computers. 80% of trading volume on any given day for any stock or index is typically done by computers. So the computers are saying there's more risk, elevated volatility potential this week because of the events we have. We should sell stocks now because stocks are down. Now, if markets were down 20% heading into these events and we had the same setup that we have today, you'd probably see markets going up a lot today just because, right? The event risk was skewed to the positive. Wall Street today clearly is saying the event risk is skewed towards the downside. Days like today, though, are actually positive and necessary. Why? Because it shows you we're not close to a bubble, as some people have said. This market is not too overextended. We can still have a random red day for not a whole lot of a reason. That doesn't happen in bubbly markets. That doesn't happen if people are super bullish. So today actually reaffirms my bull thesis that we still have so many bears out there, so much hedging that needs to be done because of what could happen on certain events. There's likely a lot more room to go up to the upside, okay? That's a big takeaway. The VIX today is up 3.34%. What's actually fascinating about today, though, even though we're getting this risk-off kind of sell-off, the NASDAQ, Russell, and let me be clear, there is some pieces of news that you could say, okay, that's not great. We'll get into that in just a moment. That could be, having some kind of a roll in today. 10-year Treasury yields are down about 4 basis points. So yields are not rising today. They're actually falling, which typically leads to an outperformance of small caps. Oil is down 1.80% today. Okay. Gold is down 0.5% today. Cryptos, anywhere from, down 2.5% on Bitcoin to Ethereum, down about 4.5%. This actually looks very healthy to me. The last thing you want is a market that goes straight up, because there's a saying, right? Stocks tend to take the escalator up and the elevator down. You want to avoid the elevator down. If stocks just keep going up, eventually you're going to get the elevator down. If stocks can have these red days along the way, it makes for a healthier market, a market that can be sustainable with the kind of gains that I'm expecting. White House Press Secretary Leavitt cites Trump's interest in reshoring manufacturing. White House Press Secretary Leavitt on Intel says Lutnick is ironing out the details of a deal. You also had SoftBank that invested about 2% of the company. They essentially bought 2% of the company, which last I checked, Intel was like a $200 billion company. So yeah, like $4 billion-ish they put into Intel. Putin has asked China to be a guarantor for agreement with America and Europeans per Axios. Leavitt says Trump is working to make a bilateral meeting happen. Leavitt says Trump expects Putin and Zelensky meeting to happen. The White House says air support is an option or possibility. And the White House says accommodations for Zelensky-Putin meeting are underway. Now, there's again still a chance that maybe Putin doesn't want peace. Like, I think Trump and Putin are on the same page. I think Trump thinks what Putin is offering is good enough to end the war. Okay? So from that perspective, you shouldn't be getting any tariffs put on China or on other countries that buy Russian oil. But if there were to be some kind of fallout and Putin were to retrench on that, there's still the chance that you could get retaliation on, Russia's trading partners, like tariffs on China. That is a risk the markets will contend with until a deal is actually signed and the war is over with. But eventually, it will be a de-risking catalyst once and for all. The White House says U.S. boots will not be on the ground. And Putin agreed to start next stage of peace talks with Rubio, Vance, and Witkoff coordinating with Ukraine. Now, here was some news today that maybe sent some of big tech lower. It says Meta to downsize AI division. Some executives expected to leave. Yeah, I don't believe this headline, okay? Or not in the way that it's being shared, okay? Meta was just poaching top tier AI, executives from other companies, right? Meta is not going to give up or slow down on the AI race. That would be way too risky for Meta to do, okay? Fine-tuning their operations, though, could happen, but not a slowdown. There's a difference there. You can actually see today a lot of the pain is in some of your larger cap companies. Meta's down 2%, Microsoft down 1%, Google down over 1%, Nvidia's down 3%, Amazon down about 1.5%. So these, Mag 7 names, if you will, are contributing to the downside that we are seeing today. Actually, quite a large clip compared to what we're used to. Normally, it's like the Mag 7 is helping to hold up the markets. Not today, which again, I think is likely a positive sign because Mag 7 has done so well recently and virtually all of these stocks are at all-time highs or very close to it. To see a little bit of risk off before major risk catalyst this week in the areas that have done the best, again, not super shocking and looks healthy to me. Now, Switzerland offers Putin immunity and is ready to host peace talks. Business Insider reports today that U.S. bankruptcies surge past 2020 pandemic levels. Fed Bowman also spoke today, but did not really say anything new or of substance today. Like, it was a lot of the same old, and Fed Bowman spoke today. We know Fed Bowman is team rate cuts. We did not get any new information out of Bowman. Now, if we take a look at what markets are pricing in for Fed rate cuts in September, the odds are actually going up a little bit today from 82.9% yesterday to 83.4% odds of a cut September. October 29th, the odds are going up as well from 44% chance of a cut again in October now to 48%, now being priced in again for October. And December, the odds are going up a little bit for a third rate cut. Yesterday, the probability was 31.2%. Today, it is 34.8%. Lutnick says today Nvidia's CEO is fantastic. Lutnick says, sure, Nvidia's CEO is pitching Trump all the time. Lutnick says, we're weeks away for the Japan and Korea deal. Lutnick says, we must handle the Chinese risk. Lutnick says, we cannot rely on Taiwan to make our chips. And Lutnick says, we are hopeful that Intel can make us a participant in the chip space. Trump says, there will be some form of security, but it can't be NATO. Trump on the war in Ukraine says he's always thought that Ukraine was a buffer between Russia and Europe. Trump on possible U.S. security guarantees says possibly by air. Trump says Russia is a powerful military nation. Trump says Ukraine is going to get a lot of land. And Trump says it's possible Putin doesn't want to make a deal. I think this was one of the worst headlines today because if Trump says Putin doesn't want to make a deal, then tariffs potentially could go on China again. I think that's really bad for like U.S.-China trade talks, okay? That wouldn't be great at all. And that is a risk that markets are digesting today. And Trump says that France, Germany, and the UK want boots on the ground in Ukraine. And Trump on the war in Ukraine says Ukraine should not have asked to be in NATO. Trump says Zelensky must show flexibility. Trump says Putin and Zelensky are getting along a little bit better. Trump says, I hope Putin will be good, if not a rough situation. Bessent says Fed rate cuts could facilitate a pickup in home building, which could keep prices down 1 to 2 years down the line. U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent says much of PPI inflation was investment services. Bessent says that Nvidia will require a license for any new China chip. One of the other negative headlines today was from Besant that says the US plans to up tariffs on India over Russian oil buying. So you can see today there's obviously some bad headlines, but to get the risk off kind of selling you're seeing today is mixing some of those bad headlines with some of the, risk of event risk, Walmart earnings, FOMC minutes, Jerome Powell on Friday. That's what seems to be the cause of most of this. In my view, it's probably not a super headline-driven move, even though there was a couple of negative headlines. That was kind of the icing on the cake. But again, as I've said in this video, I actually think that is a positive thing to see markets that are not complacent, that they can take some downside if it's warranted, right? The last thing you want is a market that keeps going up despite bad news and then finally takes that elevator lower in a huge way, right? That's the last thing you want to see. So what today shows me is there's a lot of people that are still nervous, that are underpositioned in markets that, are going to inevitably be buyers again. Ladies and gentlemen, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Check out that link down below in the description of this video for the trading community as well. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next episode.